Hey everybody, and welcome to Meals with Melissa. And I apologize for the odd angle, but I lost my, sorry, I'm finishing off sucking on something here, so let me swallow it real quick. All right, there we go. New set of vitamins. Anyway, I lost my regular tripod, which I normally put over here, and so I'm using a tabletop one, propped up on something, and it's just, the lighting's not helping, so I apologize in advance. But we're still gonna give you a great recipe today, because today, for some odd reason, a lot of people don't do breakfast. Partially, I think it's a timing issue. You know, a lot of people are getting up and rushing to go to work in the morning. They might get a cup of coffee and that's about it. I don't know about you, but I gotta have breakfast or my stomach starts to freak out and tell me what it thinks about it. Plus, I need that energy in the morning. You know, I eat just enough calories every day and macros to get through the day. And so when I go to sleep at night and, you know, they call breakfast is breaking your fast. There's a reason behind that, because that's the first meal of the day. Now, some people skip breakfast, and you know what, by all means, if it doesn't work for you, that's totally up to you. Your goal is just to get your macros within the day and to eat clean and healthy food to keep your body moving. It's fuel. But for me, I love breakfast. But for a lot of people, they just need something that's efficient and that they can just grab and go. Now, Starbucks might be the one you reach for. However, even their little egg bite things are not exactly the healthiest option that they have out there. So let's, you know, if you work in advance and have things prepared, it makes it not only easy, but healthy to have something ready to go, and you don't have to do that drive-through at Starbucks, which in our area is like this crazy line outside, which I don't understand, but you know, more power to you. All right, so we're gonna make healthy, savory breakfast cookies. Now, yeah, you can call this what you want. You can put them in muffin tins and make muffins or whatnot. I just like the fact that you can pretty much put any protein in it. Now, quick thing, if you have any sort of allergies to eggs, might not be the best option for you, but you understand that breakfast does not have to be a breakfast food. You can have steak and whatever. I mean, like, be creative. This is about fuel. This isn't about necessarily tradition in every aspect of that sense. So what we're gonna do today is make a healthier version of something that will be super easy. You can refrigerate them or even freeze them and then just unthaw them and take them to work with you as you need. So the first thing that we're going to do, I've actually already done a little pre-prep. I have preheated my oven to 375. I've also already cooked a batch, I just have to find where I've put everything here, now I use chicken sausage. I know that this is not available back east in the United States and maybe in other countries, so you're gonna have to use what works for you. I just like the chicken sausage. I'm not a huge fan of pork. You can also use turkey sausage as well. I've already used some ground sausage, and I've already cooked it up with some onions, and you could also use some green peppers or any color peppers. I just don't do well with nightshade vegetables. So we're gonna leave that out of my version, but you can absolutely do that. So what I'm gonna do is I've started with approximately a 1/4 cup of onion. You can use about a 1/4 cup. Again, I'm doing a half batch, so keep that in mind, half batch. That way I've already done a half and I can show you a half. And about 2 ounces of sausage. It's a very small batch, but it'll work great. You can make bigger batches and, like I said, put them in the freezer and they're ready to go when you need to get to work. All right, in my bowl, I am actually going to use almond flour today. Almond flour and coconut flour, while not interchangeable, both good options, especially where it is not quite as processed down to something like wheat flour that turns very, very quickly to glucose in your bloodstream and can cause issues. Plus, I choose to be gluten-free because I do have a autoimmune issue. So, to half batch this, I'm going to use 6 tablespoons. That is half of a 3/4 cup of almond flour. So 6 tablespoons, super easy. We almost always have almond flour at our house. And when we don't, I go get more. All right, then I'm going to add to that 1/4 tablespoon, and I gotta find my little measuring spoons over here. I've been a little everywhere this morning. By the way, happy Halloween. All right, so I'm gonna put a 4th teaspoon of salt. We usually use Himalayan pink at my house. So a 4th teaspoon of salt to that. Also a 4th teaspoon of pepper. I should have got my ring light in here. Again, I just wasn't thinking when I set it up and thought, oh, let's just get started. And believe it or not, I could not find one decent tripod here in town. So I had to order it, and for some odd reason, Amazon Prime is no longer 2-day. I don't know why I pay for it then. All right, so to that, I'm also gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. That is our leavening agent. I have these really great ones that go clear down to 1/8 of a teaspoon, which I have needed more than once. All right, so I'm gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. add to that. And I'm just gonna use a fork and kind of just get that a little bit mixed up. See if I can find the fork from earlier. I obviously made a batch already this morning, so I've got things a little bit of everywhere. But I'm gonna mix that up just a little bit. Okay, and then in a separate bowl, I'm going to mix some eggs and some cheese. Now, if you can't do cheese, if you choose not to do cheese, I don't mind a little bit of cheese, you know, especially if it's not super processed like Velveeta garbage. Or if any of you are anywhere near my age and remember government cheese, oh, heaven forbid. All right. Obviously, nothing that the government does is efficient or worthy. All right, that's a totally different conversation for a different day. All right, so in another bowl, I'm gonna take 1 egg. I love eggs. I don't even buy them from the store anymore. We have a local farmer down here that we just go buy them directly from, and they just taste so much better. Okay, so I'm going to, now it calls for, the main recipe calls for 3 whole eggs. I'm actually going to do 1 whole egg and then enough egg whites to consist of another half of an egg, just because again, that's a really tough one to break down and I'm not gonna play that game. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a tablespoon and a half of liquid egg whites to add to that. And again, you could use predominantly liquid egg whites if you don't want to use a whole egg, but you know what? Unfortunately, the yolk is where all of the vitamins are. So I highly recommend eating a whole egg. Now, I get it. You know, during especially the early 1990s, we had an issue with that whole like low fat because fat causes fat, which is unfortunate because that is exactly opposite of really what the problem is. And that is evidenced by the fact that most of our country became overweight and obese. Right now in 2020, which is a year all for itself, at my house, we call it the year that shall not be named, 75% of Americans are overweight and or pre-diabetic. So that is really unacceptable. So, you know, fat doesn't cause fat. Healthy fats are good for you. They're satiating. And realize that every cell in your body is made up of triglycerides or of lipids. So, okay. So I'm gonna beat that up just a little bit. So I'm going to add not quite half a cup of cheddar cheese. Now, if you like a different type of cheese, by all means, it just has really good flavor and things like these. And I'm gonna keep out just a tiny bit to adorn the top of my cookies when I'm done. I'm going to mix that in. I mean, I'm not gonna really mix, but you know, just refresh, because it'll get mixed in with my other part of my batch. Okay, so I'm gonna mix those together. And somewhere I have a rubber scraper. Rubber scraper. All right, so I'm gonna mix that in with my almond flour mix. And then to that, I'm going to add my sausage and onion, and of course, if you're using peppers, and again, it doesn't have to be green peppers, it can be any color. Okay, I'm gonna add, and actually I'm gonna crumble that just a little bit further, just so that it mixes a little bit more evenly in my little cookies. Now again, you could do muffins with these, use a muffin tin, I don't really care. The whole point is pre-proportioning things out so that you don't have to do that later. I would say that the biggest issue the majority of my clients have when they're struggling to reach their goals is they're not prepared. And so one of the things that make it a lot easier is batch cooking. Now I get a lot of pushback when people say, well, I'm not a competitor. I really don't care. If you are taking your food, if you're taking lunches to work, you're food prepping. So batch cooking actually works great. Even if you choose, you know, I bake a crock pot of chicken and then I flavor it later with either sugar-free barbecue sauce or taco seasoning or whatever. It's multi-useful, right? So then you can make a bunch of different things out of it and actually not get bored. All right, so I'm gonna mix this up. And then I'm going to put it on a pan of that's already prepared with parchment paper. I love parchment paper. I think the biggest reason is that it makes for easy cleanup. It helps so that your product doesn't stick to the pan and it doesn't burn. So don't use wax paper, different ballgame, right? Use parchment paper. So I'm gonna portion these out like cookies and smash them flat. Now, real quick, whatever you're doing, I get a lot of people that come back and ask me for macros for these. The problem is it really depends on how you portion things out. There is a whole part of MyFitnessPal where you can enter in all the ingredients exactly as you added them to your recipe and then divide it into serving sizes. That is your best bet. I don't want to give you a set of macros that ends up being not not exact for the way that you're making your recipe. So especially if you choose to add something slightly different or go with egg whites instead of full eggs, that's gonna make a huge difference, and you need to make sure that you are calculating for that fact. Okay, so that's done. Now you can see, I'm just gonna show you what I've already done. Once we're done here, I'll just pop these in the oven and then I'll put them in the fridge so that my family can eat them. So it makes a good, this batch made 5, the half batch. They're a little bigger, so I guess you could make them a little bit smaller. And then you can just top it with the extra cheese, and you're going to bake them in an oven at 375 for between 8, I'm gonna say 12. The recipe said 10. I'm gonna say it took me 12 minutes to get these to be where I wanted them to and not too soft. So, and then again, you can store them in the fridge till you're ready to go. So hopefully that gives you some great ideas. That is my whole goal. You know, even if you get a meal plan from your coach, that doesn't mean you can't be creative. You know, I remember once being given, okay, I could have 8 egg whites and some protein powder, and I was doing those separately until I discovered if I mix those together, it makes a really great protein pancake. So again, if you get tired and bored of things, you want to change it up, you can do that and still be healthy. Pinterest can be your friend. Now, really one caveat real quick, you got to make sure you're paying attention to the ingredients, because just because it says it's healthy does not necessarily equal that. I found a couple of really great recipes for something I wanted to try, and they all said healthy and whatnot. But one of them had maple syrup. Now, yeah, that's probably a better option than pure sugar because it's processed differently. However, maple syrup, I don't care if it's organic or whatever, is still sugar. So you have to keep that in mind when you're working to build some of these new recipes. Make sure that the ingredients actually promote good health and not opposite of what you're trying to accomplish. So have an incredible weekend, you guys. I hope you're gonna, I know there's nothing going on because it's 2020, nothing going on for Halloween, but I hope you enjoy it just the same. Have an incredible week, you guys. No Meals with Melissa next Saturday. We will be in Boise for the Idaho Cup, the bodybuilding show. We have 3 competitors there, so I will not have access to a kitchen. But the following week we'll be back at it. So have an incredible weekend, you guys. Happy Halloween.